Come on in, you guys. We're about ready to start a brand new episode of my show. It's called Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website, but we do all the fun. Starts over on Instagram. All the cool kids are on Instagram. No offense to the other social media outlets, but Instagram has kind of been the one place where things are a lot more positive in the midst of this coronavirus thing than anywhere else. Twitter is probably the biggest hellhole, and Facebook is depressing. But Instagram tends to be where a lot of the uplifting and positivity is. So go follow me over on Instagram. I'm at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you are there, you can engage in the Jimmy Rant show. We go live at 11 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday and Sunday. We sometimes throw in a 5 p.m. Eastern time during the week as a bonus episode. If you missed any of those, please go to JimmyRants.com. All the past episodes, I think we're approaching 450 episodes now of Jimmy Rants that you can go and partake in. It's also all up on YouTube. Type in the keyword Jimmy Rants and you will find the show. So we're still in the midst of this COVID-19. We're still all having to be quarantined. You're still having to try to figure out what in the world is happening in the world with this. Trying to stay knowledgeable about it because knowledge is power. You want to make good decisions for your family and all the things, right? Perhaps one of the things that has come up in the course of trying to be informed is you found yourself to be incredibly stressed. Anybody? Raise your hand loud and proud. Oh yes, I see you there in the back. Yes, I think we all at some degree or another have felt the stress of having to deal with this. Some of you have a little more anxiety about this than others, but most of us have some semblance of anxiety. Also, you don't know who to believe anymore. There's so many people talking about COVID-19 and coronavirus and projecting death totals and this and that, and you're just overwhelmed. So the purpose of this Jimmy Rants is twofold. I want to help lower your stress about all of this by giving you some resources of the people you can trust to give you good, reasoned, and reasonable information about what's happening. And so I've got a list of some names of various people on social media you should be following if you're not following already. And then tips about how to properly stress about this, because the stress in and of itself about this can actually be a positive. It's not the stress itself, it's the reaction to the stress that is causing a lot of people problems. So what I have here is an article from a brand new website. Go check out this website, you guys, metabolicmultiplier.org. So it's my friend Christy Barnett. She is a psychotherapist who helps her patients deal with being overwhelmed and anxious and all the things. She works with Dr. Chris Palmer very closely. He is a Harvard psychiatrist who is also putting out some really good information, which I'll tell you about here in a minute. But we've got to be relying on the good information that's out there. And so this is one of those websites, you guys, metabolicmultiplier.org. Bookmark it, go check it out, and read the articles. And what I'm going to share here today is from an article that Christy wrote that I think could be very helpful in this time of trying to deal with the stress and knowing who to trust. All right, here we go. The brutal facts of our current reality can cause you stress. A barrage of COVID-19 information can be difficult to assimilate or to prioritize when it is most needed to help manage uncertainty and to reduce your stress. So I have developed a curated list of resources for you below. So we'll go over those resources here in a minute. Get a pen and paper. If you don't have one already, get a pen and paper, get something on your device, getting ready to take some notes, because you need to be following some of these people that Christy suggests here. So there is this thing called Stockdale's paradox in the midst of a pandemic. So Stockdale is an admiral, I believe in the Navy, who has this theory when it comes to stressing and how to get a benefit out in the midst of stress. So the Stockdale paradox is the persistent belief in a positive outcome. Do you guys have a consistent belief right now that when all this COVID-19 dust settles and we come out the other end of it, do you have a positive view of that? You should be. You should be thinking in a positive direction, even though we have lots of things going on and swirling in our head about the situation in the current. Don't look at it from the current. Let's look a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Is it still pessimism, or are you kind of generally going, okay, well, by then, I would hope we have a positive outcome and have a very optimistic look, okay? So the Stockdale paradox, the persistent belief in a positive outcome while you accept that a crisis reality is here as it actually exists, okay? So by having a positive view of what this will be on the other end of it, doesn't mean you can't accept that right now it's in a very bad situation. And I think that's where people's minds get messed up. They see the right here and right now as the every time and all the time and how it will always be. There's even some conspiracy theorists being put out there. Well, this is changing our culture forever and we're never going to be able to get back our liberties and blah, blah, blah. I get that sentiment, but let's slow our roll a little bit. We're looking at it through the lens of right now. And if you're one of those right now believers and right now thinkers, I need you to put on your future cap. I did a whole Jimmy Rants about some ways to help you deal better with stress and anxiety in the midst of things happening, is to always try in your brain to think 3 steps forward. Because if you think 3 steps forward, it always puts your brain in a situation where you're not looking at things through the prism of right now. Because right now can jade your perspective. Right now can make you believe all kinds of things that a year from now simply won't be true. So I love this, the Stockdale paradox, the persistent belief in a positive outcome while accepting a crisis reality as it actually exists. And if you do this, it can be a guiding template for positive coping in this stressful situation of global illness. So maybe you've allowed your brain to go there and you've gotten overwhelmed. Back up a little bit, breathe, and then assess. Because I think sometimes we get so caught up in the moment that we don't see the forest for the trees. And when you're caught up in the moment, you can't think clearly. Then you start making bad decisions. That is a horrible recipe for stress disaster. Okay? And I don't have to tell you guys, you follow my work, stress is probably the biggest reason why people are having mental health issues right now and even physical health issues right now. Have you noticed any chronic pain that maybe you got rid of but it's come back? Have you noticed headaches? Have you noticed exhaustion? Have you noticed any physiological effects, not from COVID-19, but from the stress over all that's happening in the world right now? Yeah, I think we all can relate to that is a reality we're all having to deal with. I see my buddy Daryl Edwards got on here. He's all about primal play. If you're not doing some like movement and trying to relieve some of that stress through movement, doing it in a fun way, playing music. Daryl, I love watching you, man. You get on Instagram and you're just playing some music and you're doing all your, you don't want to see Jimmy Moore. I'm definitely a white boy can't dance. But you do that and it changes your mood so much. So yes, we're stressed, but it doesn't mean you need to wallow and live in that stress. Let that stress go, meditate, deep breathe, yoga, exercise, have fun. That's kind of the ticket right now. If you just joined us, I'm going over an article from this website, metabolicmultiplier.org. Christy Barnett's friend of mine at Keto NJ here on Instagram. And also she works with Dr. Chris Palmer, who is a Harvard psychiatrist. Chris Palmer MD, I believe is his username here on Instagram as well. And they're trying to put out resources for people about how to manage this stress in this time and how to find those people who are putting out really good information so you stay chill in the midst of all the overwhelmingness that is the information about COVID-19. So I just told you about the Stockdale paradox. So she has a quote here from Admiral James Stockdale. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end, which is that positive attitude we're all trying to have right now, which you can never afford to lose. because that's the hope for a good future. And if you're not hopeful for a positive outcome and hopeful that we're going to come out the other end of this, then you need to start being hopeful. With the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be. So in this instance, there's people that have lost their jobs. I read a statistic today that said 16 million people lost their jobs since this COVID-19 happened here in the United States. That's a whole lot of people now dealing with an economic burden. And there's other people who are still working, but they're running out of money because they've had to cut back hours. There's other people who have new challenges. There are small businesses, for example, and they can't get customers to come buy their stuff because they're not considered an essential place of business anymore. And so therefore they have to be closed, not make money, and then they wonder when they do come back, am I going to have a business to open? These are all the things that in the here and now, they're the brutal facts of the reality. But even in the midst of that, Admiral Stockdale says, you got to keep that hope for a positive outcome. Okay. Stress and the COVID-19 experience. I want to give you some things that you might not think about being stress in your life right now, but they are very much stress. Change. Just change in and of itself. Just anything that you're doing right now that is different from what you normally do, change is a stress. And it's so funny to me because I often tell people roll with the punches. That's kind of something I've had to learn in the course of my life, of when life throws you lemons, you make lemonade. Change is probably the only thing that is constant in the world. Isn't that ironic? The most constant thing is change. But change. And so change is really throwing people for a loop and messing them up with stress. An altered daily routine. Maybe you're used to getting up, doing all the things, getting dressed, getting out of the house, getting away from the kids, going to work, having all your jobs and all your interactions with your coworkers, and then coming home. And now you're having to do all that from home, or you don't have a job anymore. Altered daily routine is stress. Uncertainty. We all have that right now. We don't know how much longer they're going to make us stay in our houses. Like literally, they're saying by the end of April we can reassess, but are we seriously thinking by the end of this month they're going to let us all out again? No. End of May? I don't know. June, July, August? This is the thing that's playing with people's brains probably the most. It's just the uncertainty of all of this. And so when you're uncertain, you get stressed. Pandemic. So just the fact that we have this virus out there that is inflicting people and killing people. And what's funny is like all the stories, like the major stories that the mainstream news media are putting out there is all about, oh, we got a 14-year-old that got this and died. Oh man, the first 6-month-old baby got this. I'm just like, what good does that do? That just underscores this stress of this being a pandemic. So people are overwhelmed by that. Isolation. I can tell you, I feel this stress big time because I am all alone here in my house in South Carolina and I'm isolated. And I am not going to lie to you. It has been extremely hard on me mentally. I'm a very social person. And when you're social and you like to hug people and you like to see people and talk people and interact, it ain't the same on video chat, I promise you. Yes, that has helped. I've got some great friends that I video chat with pretty regularly and or just talk on the phone with pretty regularly. It helps, but it's not the same as physically having someone in your presence. I've missed that a lot. Scarcity. So maybe you've gone to the store and they're not just out of toilet paper, but out of like food. If you're carnivore right now, you're probably having a tough time trying to find meats and other things that would be essential to your diet. So scarcity is also a stress. And then the last one, a fear of illness or death. So especially people who are immunocompromised right now. My own mother is 70 years old and she has this autoimmune condition called myasthenia gravis. If she gets COVID-19, she's going to be a goner. And so I'm like urging her, stay inside, don't get out, don't have anybody come over to see you. My sister Beverly comes to see her, but she stays plenty far away, brings her groceries and does all the things for her. But it's a scary time when you're that fearful of illness and dying from this. And it's a very real and present danger. There is no question that people are facing multiple stressors right now, but the question is, how do you best deal with it? So isn't that what you want to know? You guys ready for this? This is really good, and I'm really happy. Again, Christy from metabolicmultiplier.org. Go check them out. But she's got this list of how to reduce stress. Stress busters are twofold, she says. Number one, it's information, and number two, support and self-care. So on the information, you get the brutal facts that Admiral Stockdale referred to. Information helps you come to terms with the reality of the situation, and from there you formulate a positive action. So when you're watching the news about COVID-19 and you're reading something that shows you the brutal facts of what's happening in the situation, is your immediate thought pattern to formulate a positive action in response to it? Let's go back to the example of the 14-year-old kid who got this and died. Okay? So how do you make that a positive? So if you read that kind of information and you think it's only an old person disease, it's only an immunocompromised person's problem and not a young person, but then now you see a young person get it. Statistically, that's an outlier because most of them are metabolically damaged people that are getting this, have lots of comorbidities, which means other things that were already going on, and COVID-19 just helped precipitate it. What do you do to formulate a positive action out of that? You could, in your mind, say, well, I eat a paleo diet, I eat a real food diet, I eat keto, I eat carnivore, I know my immunity is really strong, and so while that was tragic for those people, I know that the actions I'm taking to protect myself and to be healthy right now are going to make that less and less of a eventuality for me as compared to those people that did succumb to this. You see how you can turn it into a positive, some seemingly negative, brutal fact evidence, and make it a positive. If you're not doing that already, start doing that right away. The second one is support and self-care, which help fortify faith in our capacity to withstand and grow as a result of this crisis. So if you're not already taking care of yourself, going on walks, exercising, breathing, trying to de-stress in the midst of this, you need to start doing that. You also need to find support in other people. We have incredible technology at our disposal now. You guys are all watching me on a device right now on Instagram and Facebook, YouTube, wherever you're watching this. And so we need to be using this technology. FaceTime is wonderful. Going on an Instagram video chat is wonderful. Using Skype, using all the technology. I saw Nick Saban is the head coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide college football, and he's never had an email, and he's never been on a video chat. He now has both on his phone, which I thought was funny because he always talked about, well, we don't need to be exposing ourselves to that. He's very old school. But now he has it because the importance of support and staying in touch is so critical. All right, information to help with the COVID-19 stress. So Christy and the team, again, at metabolicmultiplier.org, have curated this list of people that they follow across various media for valid COVID-19 information. This list was curated by vetting for credibility and an absence of any kind of agenda, political overshadowing. It's divided into two different categories: primary sources, which means they're on the front lines of understanding what all this means, and then the transducers of information, which is people who hear that frontline information and then they regurgitate it into everyday language, okay? Primary sources are those on the cutting edge of research, practice, and policy. Transducers are those who can take the primary information, package it into consumable bites for the general public. So you ready for this? This is going to be your go-to list, you guys. If you don't have people that you trust with this COVID-19 information and you're just drinking out of the fire hose of everything that's happening right now, whittle it down. Get it down to people that matter. So I hope you're ready. There's a whole bunch of names here. I'm going to give you usernames and who they are and why you should trust them. So you ready? Here we go. So on Twitter, yes, Twitter is a horrible place to be right now, but there are some good people putting things out on Twitter. There is this lady named Laurie Garrett. Okay, so her username at Laurie, Laurie _ Garrett, Garrett. So who is this? She's a Pulitzer Prize winning science journalist, a former senior fellow with the Council on Foreign Relations. So a lot of experience probably covering these kinds of stories and how to respond well to them. So Laurie Garrett. Again, we're on Twitter. David R. Liu. So he's a medical doctor. At David, David, the letter R, and then Liu. He's a Harvard professor who integrates chemistry and evolution to illuminate biology and enable new therapeutics. So that's another one for you to follow. The next one on Twitter, Craig A. Spencer, another medical doctor. Craig, C-R-A-I-G _ Spencer, S-P-E-N-C-E-R. He has a master's in public health. He's the director of global health and emergency medicine at Columbia University. Next one, Neil Ferguson. Neil is N-E-I-L _ Ferguson, F-E-R-G-U-S-O-N. This is an infectious disease modeler and epidemiologist, the director of J-IDEA and the MRC Center for Global Infectious Disease Analysis. This is a guy that would know abundantly about COVID-19 and how we're dealing with this. The next one, again on Twitter, Florian Kramer. Florian, F-L-O-R-I-A-N _ Kramer, K-R-A-M-M-E-R. Professor of microbiology at the Icahn School of Medicine, a virus and vaccination specialist. Pretty cool. The next one's another medical doctor, Josh Farkas. His username on Twitter is Pulmcrit, P-U-L-M-C-R-I-T. This is an intensive care physician, ostensibly someone who would be on the front lines of treating some of these patients with COVID-19. Tom Inglesby is the next one. His username on Twitter, T _ Inglesby, I-N-G-L-E-S-B-Y. He's the director at Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. The next one is another medical doctor, Priya Sampathkumar, and her username is P-S-A-M-P-A-T-H-K-U-M-A-R-M-D. She is a chair of the infection control at the Mayo Clinic. Okay. Again, if you're joining us late, this is a list of people you can trust with quality information all about the COVID-19. This is frontline people and researchers, practice and policy who can help you cut through the muckety-muck of all the agenda-driven media that's out there. These guys are trying to keep it based on the science. The next one is a mathematician and epidemiologist named Adam Kucharski. So it's Adam J. Kucharski, A-D-A-M-J K-U-C-H-A-R-S-K-I. He's at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. And then the last one from the primary sources is Peter Hotz. He's a medical doctor and a PhD. Peter Hotz is on Twitter, P-E-T-E-R-H-O-T-E-Z. He's a vaccine scientist and a professor at the Baylor School of Medicine. So those are the people that if you want good quality frontline information about what's happening with COVID-19, go follow them on Twitter. Like literally, I know most of us are avoiding Twitter like the plague because it's an ugly place, but those are the people doing good things out there all about this issue with COVID-19. Now, there are some online resources of COVID-19 information. The Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, just Google that. Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center. And then other things are on this metabolicmultiplier.org site that are clickable links where you can find all kinds of things. All right, how about the transducers of COVID-19 information? So this is for you guys here on Instagram. There are two people who are leading the charge, and I follow both of these guys, especially the first one I'm going to tell you about. Here on Instagram, you've got Peter Attia. He's a medical doctor. He worked with Gary Taubes for a little while on the Nutrition Science Initiative. Well, now he's using him and his team are trying to think of like all the ways that this frontline information being put out there can be applied and help educate us, the consumer. So go follow Peter Attia here on Instagram. Peter Attia MD, that's PeterAttiamd. I was just watching yesterday, Pete does a podcast. And on his podcast, he got his teenage daughter to come on and ask her questions about what she wants to know. And I learned so much from hearing his like 14, 15-year-old daughter asking him questions about this and her sharing her concerns in the midst of this. So definitely go follow Peter Attia. And then the second one is another medical doctor, Christian Assad. He is Med Hacker over on Instagram here. So MEDHACKER. So those are the resources, you guys. Definitely make sure that you follow those people. All right, so how about support and self-care? Maintaining a positive mental health and outlook are essential to this Stockdale paradox. Support comes from friends, family, and mental health professionals. It can also be found online. Information packaged in a reassuring but fact-based manner is another form of stress-relieving support. Here are some resources. By the way, that's what I'm trying to do with my Jimmy Rants, is provide information to you, but in a calm manner so you're not alarmed. I'm not buying into a lot of the hyperbole that's being put out there. If there is information that is on that line, I always try to make sure the line of demarcation is not to be super conspiracy theorist about it, but to say, okay, here's what's being said. So look for those kind of resources on YouTube. There is a presentation by Dr. David Price. Go on YouTube. If you're watching this on the replay on YouTube, after you're done watching Jimmy Rants, look up Protecting Your Family from COVID-19, again by Dr. David Price. He's a pulmonologist at Weill Cornell Medicine. And why is it worth watching? There's a plenty of speculation and unfounded information floating around out there in the media. Many people aren't sure what to believe. And so Dr. Price is someone that's on the front lines, provides actionable advice to protect yourself and your family. He does it without any kind of panic involved, and it will empower you to help alleviate the fears about COVID-19. So that's on YouTube. Other online sources, Advancing Psychiatry at psychologytoday.com, again by Dr. Chris Palmer, the medical doctor from Harvard. This is a 3-part series on how to cope with COVID-19. He says, don't waste these difficult days of physical distancing. Use them to reflect, learn, and grow. And he notes that finding purpose and meaning is one key to coping. That's one thing that I've kind of tried to encourage people to, is in the midst of this, try to figure out who you are. Like, there's a lot of people that've gone through the motions of life and they don't really know who they are, what their purpose is, why they are on this earth. And guys, I can tell you, when you find your purpose and you know what it is and you start living out your purpose in this world, it's a beautiful thing. Like, I feel like what I'm doing right now is my purpose in the world. And it's not about money, it's not about fame, it's not about anything except just doing what you know you were called to do. So if you don't know what that is, I urge you, try to figure it out. Right now is a great time to figure out what is the meaning of your life. Okay? So that 3-part series from Dr. Palmer can help you with that. Again, psychologytoday.com, Advancing Psychiatry is the article. The National Alliance on Mental Illness has developed a comprehensive COVID-19 guide. It addresses a lot of topics from loneliness to smoking to working from home to anxiety. It is information packed. So Google the National Alliance on Mental Illness. Next one is the Child Mind Institute, which is supporting families with information twice daily. They're doing Facebook video chats with mental health professionals. I noticed the same thing here on Instagram. Some of my friends, Christy Malone is a therapist, and I've seen that she's been doing some sessions, like group sessions online with people. And I think she had like a group with women, but then she had another one with just men, dealing with some of the things that are coming up over this. The next one, American Psychological Association Pandemics General Resources. So again, Google American Psychological Association Pandemics. Caroline Bologna, How to Care for Your Kids' Mental Health During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Experts sharing ways parents can help their kids cope with social distancing. It's on the Huffington Post from March the 31st. So go look up the article. You can Google this as well. How to Care for Your Kids' Mental Health During the COVID-19 Pandemic. And that's a big one, because I know a lot of kids, and of course younger kids, don't know what's happening. The older kids might know-ish what's happening, but they miss their friends and they miss the congregating with their teenage friends, and they don't understand, why can't I be with them, and da-da-da. So it's tough right now, and so they give you that resource. So on Instagram, you've got Nurse Christie, NURSECHRISTIE on Instagram, right here. She is curating practical tips for health and self-care. I'm not an epidemiologist, she says, but I know how to wash my hands. So she provides tidbits which are intended to provide motivation to make small changes to enhance your coping. Sometimes it's just something as simple, you guys, as getting up in the morning and just make your bed. Do you do that, or have you let it go by the wayside? I think sometimes we get so overwhelmed by circumstances that we forget kind of the basic things. So make your bed, do some simple things, and that helps you cope. Anna is Psychology and Love here on Instagram. So Psychology AND Love right here on Instagram. Post helpful information on mental health, self-care, and mindfulness. Almost done, you guys. Other resources. There is a volunteer named Manny, M-A-N-I, who is a retired submarine commander, suggests all the following actions to optimize your experience of this time. And there's some resources that go along. So Manny says breathe. So deep breathing exercises. Dr. Andrew Weil has various ones using what's called the 4-7-8 breathing technique. So go Google that. Walking and running. Research shows exercise to be a great antidepressant. Look up the article Prescribing Exercise for Depression. Fresh air. So Florence Nightingale had it right. Fresh air is beneficial. You can see what the University of Virginia School of Nursing has to say about it, so Google that as well. Improve your posture, because that will improve your health, as I sit up straighter on here on Jimmy Rants. Stretch and yoga. Go outside, get sunshine. There's plenty of evidence that shows sunshine helps you get better sleep as well, and both sleep and sunshine and fresh air all give you benefit. Massage, which there's a lot of benefits to massaging. I've been rolling a lot, so I've got some foam rollers, and I'll roll pretty much 2-3 times a day. Just, you don't realize your muscles are tense, and then you start rolling and you're like, whoa, real tense. So if you don't have foam rollers, I'm sure you can get them on Amazon, but try to do those kinds of self-care things. Take a nap if you need to. This is another one. Napping has many benefits that can relieve stress and improve your mood, especially if you're not sleeping well. Get a little bit of a nap, power nap, and then come up, wake up refreshed and ready to go again. Now, if you have people in your house, you can cuddle and touch. This touch provides support, stress relief, and immune system fortification. If you don't have that, I feel your pain, because that's the one thing I'm missing the most, is physical touch from another human being. And then the last one is gardening. This is the time of the year when people start gardening. There's a lot of people worried about where they're going to get food from, and so they're starting to garden. And so it's a productive form of stress relief, combines physical activity, mindfulness, and outdoor time, as well as kind of putting your mind at ease about where you're going to get food in the months to come. So, facing the cruel reality and simultaneously having an unshakable faith in a positive outcome is a mindset that defines this Stockdale paradox. It's a mindset that's a useful guide for our experience with COVID-19 and all the societal impacts. Face the facts. fortify yourself, and then move towards triumph. I really, really loved this article. Wanted to share it here today on Jimmy Rants. Again, metabolicmultiplier.org is the website if you want to see more of the links to those resources. Everything I just shared is right there on that website in that article. The article is called Combat Stress with these constructive COVID-19 information resources. So really, really hope that helped you out here today. I definitely want to see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. We're going to go to Instagram Live first, and then if we have time, we'll come over to Facebook Live. And just a reminder, thank you, Living La Vida Low Carb Facebook page for being there, but I can't see your comments. So please leave comments, and I will get to them after the show. All right, you guys, jimmyrants.com is the website. Come on in. Nancy says, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. Thanks for being here. Beth says, not doing well mentally here. I will catch this on YouTube later. Well, hang in there, Beth. You're not alone. There's a lot of people struggling right now. The pain is real. And I've had my moments. I'm not too ashamed to say I've cried a few times because I've so missed having human affection and even just someone in the room just to talk to. It's real. So the people living alone, which I think I read a statistic on a Jimmy Rants a couple weeks ago, it's about 1/4 of the population lives alone. And so if you're all by yourself, you're not, well, you are alone, but you're not alone in being alone because there's a lot of us dealing with that as well. So hang in there. Keto Purple Owl dealing with stress. First, turn off the news. Yeah. And curate the news from reputable sources like what we shared here today. Intermittent Fasting Tribe says try to move daily, go walk in nature. That is a great suggestion because when you do that, you not only get the exercise, but you also get the sunshine, you get fresh air, and you might see somebody along the way. Stay properly distanced from them, but you could, see them. I just miss seeing someone that'll smile at me. I mean, I get a little bit of it when I go out to a store to get some food, but it's not every day. I'm pretty much home 3 or 4 days in a row. Then I go out, get food, come back, and then it's 3 or 4 days in a row, no human contact. It's driving me bonkers. Jax says, I put on my positivity pants every morning. We all have to be doing that right now. If you don't stay positive, then you're going to go down into a deep, dark place. Kat says, I'm a social person, but if I'm alone, I'm never lonely and bored. For 2 months, I'll be good with books, yoga, writing, some walks and runs will be perfection. But I do have to deal with my kids. Yes, you do have some rambunctious kids, don't you, Kat? Kat also says that she loves Peter Attia. He is definitely the man to listen to. Yeah, he did one the other day about, this is one experiment that I hope people are working on. And he was talking about going out in New York City boroughs, for example, where New York's been ravaged the most with COVID-19. They're like, let's go find 5 or 10,000 people in each of the 5 boroughs who are asymptomatic. In other words, they have no symptoms of this COVID-19. And let's test them. Because his theory is a whole lot more of us have COVID-19, but we're not carriers, or we're not symptomatic, but we're carriers of COVID-19, and that's why it's getting spread. So he's like, if we see a high percentage of the people that are asymptomatic show up in this test where we test them for COVID-19 and they're positive, but they're asymptomatic, that will be reason enough that we need to stop quarantining. But then he said, but what if we find in the testing that it's like 1% or less have COVID-19 of these asymptomatic people? Then he's like, whoa, we've only just hit the tip of the iceberg. So that's the kind of interesting information that could be helpful if those things could be done. So we know, his theory is that he thinks a lot of people have been exposed to this and they're just not presenting with symptoms. And therefore, why are we holed up unless you're the most immunocompromised people? Anyway, that's the kind of thing you get from Pete. So yeah, I love what he is doing right now. All right, thank you, Instagram Live. I'm going to pop over to Facebook Live now. See what you guys have to say. Thank you for being here today on Jimmy Rants. How Have a great one, Jimmy. Good seeing you. Thank you, Daryl. Yeah, Daryl is awesome. Been a great friend of mine. Primal Play is his concept. Go look him up if you haven't heard of him before. Carl says, great resources. Thank you. Berkeley says, can you post a list in print? Yes. Go over to metabolicmultiplier.org. This is the name of the article. I know it's backwards, but it says combat stress with these constructive COVID-19 information resources. It's right there on their website right now at metabolicmultiplier.org. So Berkeley, it's right there if you want to access all of the, and there'll be clickable links in there for all of the resources that I shared here today. All right. Okay, so I just wanted to bring this on here because I know a lot of people are stressed right now. I know a lot of people are overwhelmed with all the morass of information that's being put out there. Who do you trust? You know, where do you go to when you're looking for information? Hopefully this list that I shared here today gives you some ideas of who you can turn to, who you can trust. Obviously, you guys keep coming back here, so you trust me, and I'm going to keep bringing you information from a reasonable standpoint. You won't hear hyperbole or striking fear in you. I have no agenda to do anything except to help calm and make you feel better in the midst of this crisis, because there's enough people out there that are trying to work you up into a feeding frenzy because they're trying to sell you stuff. And it's unfortunate that that's become the reality of where we are, even in the midst of a global pandemic. There are people just trying to use fear as a marketing tool to get eyeballs to watch their news. Don't fall for it, guys. Like literally. Find those people you connect with that are being reasonable right now. And if you get yourself drawn in and you find yourself feeling bad watching or reading something from some news outlet or from people you follow, unfollow. Stop watching. Stop getting exposed to that, because you're not doing your mental health and your stress levels any good at all. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. As always, go follow me over on Instagram. That's where the fun begins, over on Instagram Live, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, sometimes 5 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, then on the weekends at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So go check it out at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, engage in the content that I put on my regular page, my stories, and of course these lives. If you missed any of the lives, go watch the replay at JimmyRants.com. We also put them up over on YouTube. Hi to all my YouTubers watching this. So go type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show, and be sure to subscribe over on YouTube. I know people can't always watch live, but if you subscribe on YouTube, you'll never miss an episode of Jimmy Rants. So guys, until next time, we'll see you then.